Hi, and welcome to Burlington at Work. I'm your host, Nicci Kadilak, and here's what's happening in Burlington this month. January town meeting is coming up next week. Town meeting meets 3 times a year to vote on budgetary and bylaw items, and January session is typically the shortest of the 3. Along with several housekeeping financial articles, your 126 town meeting members will be considering a few notable items. First, funding for a town-wide survey requested by the Government Review Committee. The goal is to better understand public sentiment around town government and Burlington's municipal structure. Members will also consider repurposing funds originally allocated for the project to improve the town common walkways. Because the state has provided funding for that project, the town is proposing to redirect some of that funding to the Overlook Park project to cover amenities that would otherwise be cut. Another article would fund a mobile sensory trailer for use at town events. This trailer would provide a quiet space for people who need a sensory break, and it would be staffed by trained Recreation Department personnel. The Disability Access Commission is providing half the funding, with Recreation Department requesting the remaining amount from town meeting. Town meeting will also debate whether to add a bylaw stipulation requiring a 1-year cooling off period before a failed article can be brought back to the body. The legislative session, originally scheduled for Monday, has been moved to Wednesday, January 28th due to this weekend's expected snowstorm, which could bring up to 2 feet of snow to Burlington and surrounding communities. Election season is also underway. Candidates for various elected offices have begun taking out nomination papers. Anyone interested in running for office must take out papers by February 18th and return them with the required number of signatures by 1:00 p.m. on February 20th. For more on how and why to run for office, check out our December episode. And speaking of the election, voters at this year's town election will be receiving a custom I Voted sticker to sport. Congratulations to Fox Hill 5th grader Reed Calandrelli, whose design won Burlington's student-submitted contest. His design, along with a runner-up by Tessa Busa, will be handed out at the April election. Thanks to these 2 young Burlington residents for helping celebrate civic participation. That's it for the news. Today's roundtable discussion focuses on civic and community engagement, where Burlington has been, where we are now, and where we're headed. This is Burlington at Work. Hi, welcome back to Burlington at Work. This episode is all about how residents learn what's happening in Burlington, how they engage with town government, and how that system has evolved and is still evolving over time. With me, I have Select Board Member Nick Priest, I have Communications Officer Laura Zakrewski, and I have former Town Clerk Amy Warfield. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you. So I just let's set the stage here a little bit. My first interaction or awareness of you, Nick, was because you were running for Select Board, and you ran on a communications platform. Like, this was the big thing that we were going to do.
Yeah.
What gaps were you seeing in town with communication? Why did you think that was something that you could impact as a Select Board member?
Yeah, I think big picture, it was really about, trying to bring the way the town communicates, with and to residents up to a more modern practice, right? I work in marketing and advertising, understanding, communication campaigns, the need to, disseminate information at the right level and in the right medium was really important, right? And then you just kind of saw, some departments working in silos, some miscommunication opportunities, to residents that I felt we could also tighten up, right? I think it was more about being consistent than anything else. And that's where I really felt like I could bring a different skill set to the table. And so that's kind of where we started.
Great. And Amy, you have been in the town hall for, you said, I think about 20 years before you retired last year. Did those gaps that Nick described, did they sound familiar to you? Did they feel like they resonated?
And I think that as even starting 10 years ago when you were first elected, the way people got their media or their information was changing. At that point, we still had 2 newspapers, one a weekly and one a daily, and so there was that.
And a lot of people subscribed to them. It's not just that they existed, but like people were actually getting those.
Yeah. We had good coverage. So getting things out, at least from the clerk's office, was very, very simple in a lot of ways, because a lot of things went into the newspaper, and then most certainly we were developing things like the website, and social media was starting, so we were getting Facebook accounts to be able to kind of get that going. But yeah, it was very non-coordinated, I should say.
Yeah.
And then each department kind of did something, hopefully, to get the word out. And then we also had things like at that point it was called Code Red, and you could put things out on the phone to people too.
Yeah, and so it sounds like there were a lot of different facets to communications.
Yeah.
I know, Laura, you've seen this in your time here. There's the internal communication, department to department, letting people know what you do, how you do it, what you're working on, so everybody can be aware.
Yeah.
Then there's also the communication from the town and its various departments outward to the residents. So, Amy, I'm going to go back to you for 1 second. So,
Sure.
civic engagement, community engagement, it's not technically the part of the town clerk's job, right? You're administering records and elections, but it's definitely something I know that you thought about, because you and I had conversations about the Civic Expo, which we just had our 3rd annual Civic Expo, to get people in and aware of what people were doing. How did the town historically try the outreach part, and what do you think worked and what sort of fell short from your perspective?
Well, I think if you look back, even 30, 40 years ago, civic engagement was very organic, because there were more people who were in town during a greater period of their day that you connected with different things. You saw people in the grocery store. Your kids were involved in things. And again, for Burlington at that point in time, that was the biggest growth, was families. Now, even though we have people who are working from home and those types of things, they're still working. So they're not engaged outside with other people as
they're
much.
In their own 4 walls.
Yeah, exactly. And then even how activities for kids have changed. It's not that you had everything through the rec department or through CCD or those kinds of things, so that you were connecting with other parents. There's just the way things are done is really different. Interests are much more varied than it was even at that point. So I think the change again, a lot of changes started happening, in the 15 to 20 years ago, as how we live our lives, that has caused those changes in civic engagement.
Yeah. Just to jump in.
Yeah,
too,
please.
I think it's also important to recognize that 30 years ago, the internet was still very fresh, right? And people still connected in a very face-to-face manner, right? Because that's how we had been doing it for decades.
Before.
I mean, hundreds of years, right?
Yeah, thousands even.
Yeah, I mean, before the internet, right? And with the internet and with social media, right, people now can find their own specific hobbies. They don't need to use the community the way that we used to use the community. And in that, I think we've seen that bifurcation, that split away from a community being a community because we have to be, right? And now we have to figure out ways to bring the community back together because we want to be, right? And it's a really interesting challenge.
Yeah, right. And so let's kind of go back to when you were elected to select board and you kind of started taking on this challenge. There was a communications audit that was recommended and performed by the Collins Center at UMass. What were some of the things that came out of that audit, and what kind of excited you about that? Those findings?
It was hard, right? So at first it was, what can we do ourselves, right? Because it's never just, hey, how can we spend money and go do something? It's, okay, well, how can we
have all of this extra money, where can we put it?
So, oh man, just pay for that. No, it was really like, how do we, look at this and we recognize the problem, what are solutions, right? And, I mean, we work with Amy, right, with the website. We would find ways to, create additional communication.
Because Amy was the webmaster too during
right.
her time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, we're constantly trying to, bridge that gap, right? We're working with the town administrator to talk to the directors more about how they're working within their departments and communicating things, right? And then we're trying to, just spread the word, right? So now you're seeing, like Amy said, more social media pages pop up, more, elected officials speaking on, platforms like Facebook. And so that obviously wasn't enough. We realized that it was too big of a thing to put our arms around. And we said, we need to have a better understanding of what's needed here, and we're not the professionals. Right?
And enter our friend Laura.
That's right.
into the
So
conversation.
We did the audit. And we were fighting against COVID, right? But we did the audit,
Yeah.
and the audit,
that was in like 22, 23.
yeah, the audit was finally done and completed, and it told us a lot of wonderful things, right? It gave us a lot of clear paths to pulling multiple levers, because that's the trick with communications, right? It's not just, hey, pull this, ta-da, everything's done.
Communication, welcome.
And because
Right.
there are so many different audiences you're trying to reach in so many different ways.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
and they're all in different lanes,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
Like you're in a knitting group and I'm in a baseball group.
Right.
Like, where are we ever going to talk to each other?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, using that and saying, okay, the one thing, the one ultimate thing coming out of this report is that, yes, all these things are great, but we need someone to pull those levers for us, someone in the day-to-day, right? Because, again, elected officials, with the town clerk's role notwithstanding, is not our full-time job.
Right.
Right. So, I leave work and then I'm like, okay, now how am I going to?
Right. I mean, it does feel like a full-time job
Right,
at
yeah,
times,
it
I'm
certainly
sure.
can.
Change gears. And
Exactly.
put on that hat.
Hat comes on, hat goes up. And then, and then the search began for the role that Laura now holds. And, we're super excited because now we have somebody who can develop that strategy and, begin to pull those levers.
Yeah. So and a part of the process for you, Laura, I'm sure was, what does this communications audit say?
Yes.
What do you notice as you're looking at through all of the different ways the town communicates? What stood out to you about what was and what wasn't working in that?
Absolutely. So even in the interview process for this role, one of the main things was, what is your assessment of the current state of communications, and taking a deep look at it. So even from prior to holding the job, I was taking a look at it. And in my audit, I just realized that it wasn't the effort or lack of effort that for communicating, it was a lack of structure, I feel. So similar to what you were saying, we have a lot of information being shared and a lot of different departments that are working on things, but it's not always coordinated and consistent. So they're doing those good work in efforts within each department, but they're often happening in different silos. So I noticed that for sure during it. And then also residents didn't always know where to go for their accurate information. So there was some confusion and questions happening across various platforms and channels. Where do I go for this, and how do I find the correct information? So there wasn't really a clear voice or a rhythm in terms of how often we were giving information and exactly where to find that. So the town didn't really need more content or information. We have so much of it. It's just coordinating, clarifying, and making sure our messaging is relevant.
Yeah, and so, just kind of transitioning, like you've been on the job for a few months now.
Yes.
What are some of those actions that you've taken just right off the bat to start sort of clarifying and consolidating the way the town and the residents communicate with each other?
Absolutely. So you mentioned strategy earlier. I feel like that's a big part of this, is establishing the proper strategy and building clear, reliable systems. So in my past career, I was in an agency for marketing, and so a lot of that is establishing certain processes and structures around exactly how communication is approved, how it's given, how it's received. So I think that one of the main things that I want to take to this particular job is to establish those systems so that we have a clear way of talking both internally and externally, and that in a way that we can really align together. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. So we have now at least a new Facebook page for the town.
So I was actually really surprised there was no official Town of Burlington Facebook page yet. So we established that, and then we also have a newsletter that is for residents, and then we did just launch the first employee newsletter, so helping us align together and see what other departments are doing so that we're not so unaware of what's going on. Yeah.
Great. And so we talk about meeting residents where they are. We talked about like how siloed, not just the town departments, right, but just all of us in general, right? I know that I don't go on Facebook very often, but the only reason that I stay there is because there is a group about this particular thing that my child deals with, and this other particular thing that I enjoy, and that's sort of it. right? Like, I'm not really scrolling through the feed. I'm not trying to figure out, and I'm not out looking for information. I mean, I am, because I'm Nicci Kadilak of Burlington Buzz. But before I was doing that, I was not going and looking for information about the town. Right. So how do we get that? What does it mean to meet people where they are in that? And anybody can answer this question, but I'd like Laura to start, because I'm sure you have an idea.
Definitely. I think it does take some research and looking at all of the different platforms and gathering feedback from residents. So we have some of that already, and we're going to continue to develop that as my role evolves as well. So I think it's first finding where they are, and then also making sure that we're looking at the different demographics and where they're finding their information. So the person who is on Facebook looking for their information is not the same person that, is looking for it in the mail or in a newsletter format or hard copy in a flyer. So I think we definitely need to just make sure that we're making sure the strategy includes all of those systems instead of just leaning too heavily in one place or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things with civic engagement is you have to at least first find the people where they are looking. You can't say, well, we're going to do everything on Facebook, because like you said, there are people that don't do it. So trying to identify where they are looking is probably the first step.
And when you think about it, right, we've got, and I'm going to be gracious, right, we've got 200 to 300 people who are actively engaged in town government at any given time, right?
In a town of 26,000.
In a town of, right, I mean, 27, 28,000, right? I mean, but yeah, I mean, you get rounding numbers, right? Then you've got, 4,000 to 5,000 people on Facebook, right, who will actively converse about town government and town politics, but will not always get involved, right? Then you've got 17,000 to 18,000 registered voters, of which only 2,000 to 3,000 people come out and actually vote in a town election, right? So they're the ones making the decisions for who's representing the town as a whole. But overall, you've got 27,000, 28,000 people in the town, right? So there's even still a population of people who we just aren't talking to at all, or who aren't talking to us or even maybe interested in talking to us, right? And so how do we pull all those levers, find all those audiences, and meet everyone where they are in a range of,
formats
and engagement levels, right? Because there's always some people you're never going to reach, right? Because they're like, it's not of interest to me, I'm too busy with X, Y, and Z, whatever, right? But yeah, we have to get out there and we have to engage these people, and it's a slow build, right? I mean, I know Amy's done it. I don't know if you've done it. I know I did it once. You go to the high school and you talk to kids, right, about civics and civic engagement, right? And I think that should be a more consistent piece, just in the town as a whole, is because it doesn't matter if you stay in Burlington. Wherever you go, it's a problem. Therefore, wherever you go, the education and the work that we do here is going to make a difference, right? And that's what we need to be doing. This is a long game that we're playing.
Yeah, and I think I would add too that, so part of it is identifying who the audience is and how you're going to communicate with them, but a big problem that I have seen over time is convincing them that they're the audience for your message. Right? Why should I care about this? Why does this matter to me? The explanatory work is often the hardest, because even if you've got your message in front of them, if they scroll past it because they don't think it applies to them, then you've lost it, right? So that's another, I don't know if anybody has any solutions to that.
No solutions, but it's again, like something that Nick said, is just helping people identify that they are part of a community. And I think that came through recently with the special election, in terms of people realized that although I may not really have a kid in school, I am part of this community, and it is going to affect me in a certain way. And so that's kind of the underlying thing, is about how you get people to understand that you are part of a community. You may not shop in the grocery store like you used to. You may not, you may not even go to the mall like you used to go, but you're still part of a community. And how are you going to see people more than just on a Facebook page, and really communicate with them? So I think that's one of the biggest parts of civic engagement is how do you get people to engage one-on-one, or not even just, it's more than one-on-one, it's as a group.
definitely. So we're talking a lot about external communication right now, but what is the relation and interdependence between external communication and that internal awareness and communication? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I think when we're aligned internally and have the right messaging and everybody is aware of what needs to be told to the general public, then that information is going to get out in the right way. So if everybody is not on the same page, then you run the risk of having multiple messages out in different areas. So I definitely think that when we're aligned in a unit together, it's just going to help us disseminate that information better.
Absolutely. It's all about one team, right? It's not DPW versus this. It's, we're not to pick on DPW. Sorry, sorry guys.
You guys are fine.
Oh, geez, yeah, they're coming
doing a
for
great
me now.
job.
Doing a fantastic job.
Storm coming.
I know, right? Yeah. Boy, I'm just putting my foot in it today. But it really is about having that cohesive internal team mentality, right? So that forward-facing to our customers, right, the residents, we are one front, one united front.
Yeah. And I think it will also promote, a happiness and a want to do your work well if everyone knows what's going on, and I think it's just going to be reflected when they're doing their work.
Yeah, a little bit of ownership and
exactly.
inclusion. Yeah, absolutely. Amy, what do you think people, and Nick, I would say too, because you all have been in town government for a while, what do you think residents often misunderstand about how to interface with town government? Or municipal departments, I guess, both.
Yeah, I think that Nick brings up an interesting point, that their perception is that it's not a whole team. They look at the tax department as the place that just wants my money. They look at, the clerk's office, boy, you guys give us a lot of stuff. And then, DPW, I'm only gonna, we used to chuckle that the main reason people called DPW was either for trash or snow removal or their water bill.
Yeah.
So, but getting an understanding that all of those things are integrated in. The reason that the tax department is collecting money is to be able to pay to have trash pickup. And so I think that's some things is that people segment it. And maybe in some ways we have segmented it so that kind of bringing that all together as one team. So like you said, with having a employee newsletter, so that in that newsletter, everybody who's an employee can know, okay, the water bills are going out or the tax bills are going out. So that when, no matter who, because one thing that we used to always get, or still get, I think in the clerk's office is, well, I didn't know who to call. So, but if they could just call anybody and they could say, did I get a water bill? I think I'm, they can say, oh, no, the water bills haven't gone out. Or yes, they did go out, so you'll be getting one.
And it's easy to know that information if you know to know it, right?
Exactly. So being able to communicate that as a team it would be something I think that would be really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the broken glass theory, the broken window theory, right? Is that if I don't see anything wrong, then nothing is probably wrong, right? My trash gets picked up, the roads are relatively okay, and so people don't typically reach out unless something is wrong, right? They've identified something that's wrong with them, it affects them now. And so I would say it comes down to assumptions, expectations, and understanding, right? Is that when you reach out to the town, don't lead with assumptions. Right, and I say this very directly to folks, right, because it's important that we understand how you open your interaction with the town, an employee, a department, whatever, is just like any kind of relationship, and you want to open it with kindness.
Curiosity is the big word that we use, right?
That's a great one.
Expectations. Right, we need to understand what our expectations are, what we want out of it, and what the town's expectations are for the thing that's happening, right? And it could be anything, right? Snow removal, trash pickup, right? Whatever it is, and then understanding, like we said, right? Like, when does my water bill come? Why is my tax bill, twice a year for it? I don't understand. Right? Of course we don't. That's okay. It's okay to not know something, right? But don't use it as an attack. Use it as a curiosity, like you said.
And I think getting ahead of some of those conversations too, before the snow day, before all of those things come into their mailboxes, they'll already know about it ahead of time. So I think we're gonna clear up some of those after questions.
And like if somebody doesn't hear it, their neighbor might have. So if they're complaining about not getting their water bill yet, the neighbor's like, oh no, I saw it was not going to come until whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't pretend to know when the water bill's coming.
That's okay, because I think like it leads to a very interesting thing that happens, right? Is that because we, in part, and this isn't for everybody, but I know it's true in a lot of places, we don't know our neighbors, right? Is that we don't go next door or text or call our neighbors to say, hey, did you hear that bang? Or did you see that? Or
No, we go to the residents' page to say, what was that?
100%, right?
Exactly.
We immediately complain to 5,000 other people, right?
May not be able to.
Who probably can't do anything for us.
Say, oh, I live over on this side of town. I didn't hear any noise.
Right. And then the assumption is that the town is monitoring all these conversations.
Right.
And then the expectation is that, well, the town's going to fix this, contact me, but right? And now all of these things start to snowball, right? And we need to all kind of back up and just hit the reset button and say, well, geez, maybe if I just kind of make that phone call, go next door, take a minute, take a beat, right? And lead with curiosity, while also having the appropriate outreach for folks to get to, right? We start to bridge that gap.
Yeah. And so that's a good segue, and I know the next segment we'll have an interview from the Civic Expo with Daniel Barbour from the library, who was one of the people who helped me create this show, and then now it's cool that we have Amy here who helps me create the Civic Expo. So we just had our 3rd annual Civic Expo, and the aim of that is really to do just that, right? So sponsored by Burlington Buzz, but also by the town of Burlington, to get all of those people together in one room when there's not a complaint about snow removal, when there's not a problem with your tax bill, and just like have folks be together in one room to really just understand each other, meet each other, meet your neighbors, understand each other. What do you think that the Civic Expo represents in the sort of broader scheme of civic and community engagement? Anybody?
I think it's one of the first big in-person steps to everything that we're talking about, right? It's it's a civic engagement point in time. It's not surrounded by a problem, right? It's an opportunity for curiosity, understanding, right? It gives you an opportunity just to maybe bump into a neighbor or tell your neighbor about it and go with them, right?
Some of the feedback that we got actually was like, I did not only learn something, but I also got to catch up with folks that I hadn't seen in a while, which was pretty cool.
And I think like everything we're talking about leads to the ultimate problem of there's clearly a cultural problem that we're facing, right? And how do we work together to get around that? And I think this is a step in that right direction, right? It's giving people a place to go to talk about anything that touches the town, right? And that in and of itself is fantastic in my opinion. And I can't thank the both of you for everything that you've done to make it happen and keep it going.
Thank you.
And I think the Civic Expo also gave people an opportunity to see just how much was going on in the town as well. And you look at all of those booths and you're like, wait, there's so many different departments and people that are making all of this happen. And it can really help put a face to a name of this isn't just the tax department, like you were saying. It's, here's the people that actually are part of it.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's perfect. And that, like Nick said, I think it will continue to grow. It's a matter of then the next phase would be just getting enough communication out so that people know about it. So like you said, bring a neighbor. Have you heard about this? That kind of stuff. Maybe even having some way of getting some flyers out to people that might attend, but they're just not looking at all the online media stuff.
I mean, it's a lot of, because it's cost effective, a lot of very passive communication about it, right? As in like, I put this, and if you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. But active communication definitely will be really helpful. So just a quick lightning round. We're coming to a close here. What is one thing that residents can do, and what is one thing the town can do to enhance this engagement, communication, and participation this year?
Who wants to go first?
I'll go. I think the word you use is curiosity. Somehow being able to spark people's curiosity about what the town is responsible for and what the town does. And then on the reverse side, having a consistent message from the employees so that you get that positive response to your curiosity is a big thing.
Yeah.
100%.
Laura, go ahead.
And then I think that I was just going to say pretty much, I think feedback should be a focus. So if residents can engage and ask the questions that they've been burning and asking and thinking in their heads about, I think that would be great. And then on staff's side of things, it's listening to those and thinking about how we can put some action behind it.
Yeah, and I would go even further because I'm just building on these ideas, right? Is from the town side, it's don't let logic be the destruction of a good idea, right? Keep an open mind when we're trying to solve those problems, right? Because the path of least resistance isn't always the right answer, right? And from a resident side, it's leading with curiosity and being willing to put in 10% of your energy into engaging with the town, right? You have to want so that we can help, right? Because if we don't know you're there, if we don't know you have questions or that you're concerned or, then there's just that connection is severed.
Yeah.
So we need you to help us establish that.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Amy, Laura, Nick. Thanks for joining us. It's been a really great conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
And up next, you're going to get to learn a little bit more about how communication flows in Burlington in this week's Burlington 101. At first glance, staying informed about town government can feel overwhelming. There are meetings, agendas, minutes, boards, departments, and social media, and just a lot of information spread across different places. But here's the core idea. Information in Burlington flows in two directions, from the town to residents, and from residents back to the town. On the town side, official information starts with boards and departments. Agendas and meeting minutes are posted on the town website, shared through public notices, and discussed at open public meetings. Increasingly, that information is also being shared through newsletters like Burlington Buzz and BCAT, through social media, and through community events like the Civic Expo. On the resident side, engagement doesn't stop at voting. Residents can attend those public meetings. They can submit written comments, email boards and departments. They can also serve on committees and participate in public forums. Those voices help shape decisions long before a final vote is taken. But accountability doesn't just rest on one side. For engagement to work, residents need to seek out information, and the town needs to make that information clear, accessible, and easy to find. That shared responsibility is what turns transparency into trust and information into action. And when everyone understands how the system works, civic engagement becomes less intimidating and a lot more effective. Hi everybody, it's Nicci from Burlington Buzz. We are filming right now at the Burlington Civic Expo, the third annual version of this event that we held here at Burlington High School. And we are filming this special episode of Burlington at Work, Fireside Chat. Right now I have Daniel Barbour from the Burlington Public Library. Hi, Daniel.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining me for this talk.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right to it. This show is all about introducing who's working for Burlington and what they do for Burlington. So what do you do for Burlington?
Sure, I am the Burlington Public Library's first programming and marketing librarian. I've been working at the library for about 2.5 years now.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, what is a typical day like for you? What's your day to day?
Sure. Well, every day is a little crazy in a good way. You get in and you look at social media. I monitor the social media accounts, the website, and then I look at what events we have going on that day, that week, and that month.
Okay.
I put together the schedules. I put together the event lineups. I coordinate a programming team. We have so many great members on staff who do things involved with programming, and I have to see where we're at every single day.
And you've got a great list of programs too, which is wonderful.
I am so proud of what we can offer the community, and it's because the community has offered us feedback, and that has just made my job so much easier.
That's wonderful. So libraries, a lot of people think, oh, books. It's a building full of books.
Yes.
What do you see? How do you see the library's role in civic life in Burlington?
Sure. I often say to people who think libraries are just books that you haven't been in a library in a very long time. Libraries offer the community a meeting space, a place to build community, a place to connect, to empower your hobbies, your interests. We're there every day. We can be there for your entertainment, your education, even in your emergencies. The library has resources to support you. And I absolutely love that I can be a part of that.
That is wonderful, and it's so funny that you say this because I was at the library twice this week. Okay,
Yes.
One day was to get video games for my son
Nice.
and play with him in the play place, and the other was to like check out some periodicals, some newspapers.
Yes.
And so it's just more of a evidence of like all of the great things that can be done.
Absolutely. And we love books, don't get me wrong. We love books, but connecting people to information is so much more than just books. And if you've come into the library anytime recently, you know that.
Yeah, so this event, the Civic Expo, this came out of a conversation I had with our former town clerk, Amy Warfield, and we really wanted to get folks together in a room so they could learn about all the people that work for them in the town. And Amy had already been talking about this with a few folks, notably Nick Priest and Jim Tigas, who are on the select board, and she was just so excited. Her eyes lit up, and she was like, "Okay," and like now we get to do it, and so we're really really excited. What do you enjoy about the Civic Expo, and how do you think it contributes to your work with the library?
Sure. So twofold. I love being at a table for the library and meeting so many amazing people, some for the first time, some for the 1,000th time. It is so nice to see people in a different setting and talk about the things we're doing. Some people have no idea what we're doing. So it's really great, especially I'm in charge of marketing. So when someone says they don't know what we're doing, I'm like, okay, we're getting you on an email list. We're getting you involved in a program. I love that. But then I also love meeting the different organizations, the people at those tables. A lot of people are watching 2 or 3 tables. It's so funny. I've talked to 3 people tonight who are said like, oh, I'm over there, but then later I'll be over there and I'll be over. And I love that. It shows how connected people are in the community. And I see that at our library table too. It's just people are so involved in this town and so civic minded. So having a forum for that, I thank you for that because it's just such a fun night.
That's wonderful. So just like the Civic Expo, this show itself came from a conversation you and I had. We were talking about an upcoming magazine, and we were like, it would be really cool to have these kind of fireside chat style conversations where folks could just really get to know a day in the life of people who work for Burlington. That's why we wanted you to be our first live guest, which I'm really excited about. What do you think changes when people understand how government works?
Sure. So a patron once came up to me and said, I love the library. I want to give back. I don't really know how. Should I be a library trustee or a member of the Friends or do something else? And I've worked in libraries for over 27 years. I knew exactly the differences of those things, but it dawned on me that most people don't.
Right.
Most people don't understand the functions, even of the things they think they love.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking, I love that conversation because you are able to provide an outlet for the residents to better understand what are people doing behind the scenes and how can I get involved with that. So I think that the library specifically is always looking for volunteers. The Friends are looking for volunteers. They have big book sales. And then the trustees look for members. So it's, what are those things? What's different about those? And so being able to have these chats and help people understand what the different roles are and what they do is so important.
Yeah, and I think that goes for all of the different organizations within town,
Yes,
right?
yes.
We're always looking for a committee member here or a board member there. And I do think, I agree with you. I think it really highlights all the different opportunities to become involved and engaged. What do you hope people walk away tonight with from your work and from this event overall?
Well, I hope people, if they're not aware of what the library is doing, gets on our email list, stops by the library, gets a library card if they don't have one, or if they're scared. I already talked to one person tonight who said, I haven't been in a while because I have an overdue book.
Oh.
We forgive your fines. Come back. We want you back. I want people also to get inspired by the different groups that are here. If you've come tonight, you have no excuse to not get involved with something tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 or 3 or 7 things. Like, there's so many different opportunities to channel your skill sets. We all have different skill sets. You should be able to connect with at least 1 or 2 people tonight. So I hope you wake up tomorrow and send an email or fill out a form or call that number that you picked up tonight and get more active in your community. We need community now more than we probably ever have.
Yeah.
And there's so many great opportunities in this town. I've worked in a lot of different places, and Burlington is just ripe with opportunity. So there's no excuse if you're here tonight.
It's a special place.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us for our
Thank
first
you.
ever live
And
fireside
congratulations to you. This is amazing. I've been involved every year. It keeps growing. It's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being here and watching. This is Burlington at Work, and I want to let you know, too, about a really special opportunity that we have here with the Burlington Buzz. We are opening a Nominate Your Neighbor program where you can nominate somebody nearby who makes a difference in your life. So be sure to keep an eye out on the Burlington Buzz website and make sure that you are thinking about the folks in this community that maybe are behind the scenes working to make it a better Burlington. Thank you, and thank you.
All right.
Thank everybody here.
Have a good night.